And Stephen A. Smith ended up putting Shanae and McNutt on the spot, asking them, do Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark like each other?
The WNBA is what a lot of people celebrate the NBA for embracing right now. It's a physical league. Now, this had gasoline because it had two megastar players, household names. But my number one theory is if the players are unbothered, we should be too.
Tempers flared, elbows flew, and within seconds, a hard foul between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese ignited one of the most controversial moments in the early WNBA season. In a league desperately trying to harness its rising momentum, what unfolded between the league's two most polarizing rookies wasn't just a scuffle. It was a seismic moment that split fans, triggered official statements, and reopened cultural wounds that had only just begun to scab over.
What I didn't agree with is when she said, oh yeah, all players react the way that Angel Reese reacted.
On the surface, it was a standard basketball exchange. Angel Reese battling for a rebound, Natasha Howard caught in the crossfire, and Caitlin Clark delivering what the referees would later upgrade to a flagrant foul. But underneath the hardwood, this moment was brewing long before either of them wore a professional jersey.
It's not about black and white. It's about that white player and that black player. Why? Because of the history that they had before they came to the WNBA.
Now, as far as my reason for this blowing up over everything is because of Caitlin and Angel Reese. These two fan bases are probably the most rivaled fan bases out of anybody I've ever seen.
The NCAA rivalry, the viral taunts, the media frenzy, it all came rushing back in one single possession. The tension wasn't just between two players. It became a flashpoint for race, media bias, fan toxicity, and the fragile tightrope the WNBA now walks as it steps into mainstream relevance. And this was just the beginning. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more in-depth breakdowns on the biggest stories shaping women's basketball. If competition like this is what brought you, drop a comment with "Respect the game" and let's talk about it. Because what happened between Clark and Reese isn't just a viral moment. It might be the moment that changes everything. The third quarter was winding down when a seemingly routine rebound turned into the moment that would dominate headlines for days.
The basketball play. I agree. All right, it's a basketball play, it's a basketball move, it's a take foul. It's nothing serious.
This was a basketball play. You understand? It was the heat of the moment. I got it. The fact that the Sky was getting romped by 35 certainly didn't help matters. I get all of that too, okay? But the reality of the situation is clear.
As Natasha Howard jockeyed for position under the basket, Angel Reese came crashing in with an aggressive push, trying to secure the board. In the next breath, Caitlin Clark responded, not with words, but with action. Charging into the paint, Clark delivered a foul that was clearly intended to halt the possession. To many, it looked like a textbook no free buckets play, a deliberate but standard foul to stop an easy score. But the impact, hard, loud, and visibly jolting, prompted referees to review it. Within minutes, the foul was upgraded to a flagrant. Angel Reese, meanwhile, reacted emotionally, gesturing and exchanging words.
This is an emotional experience. It is a high-level experience. These women are competitive. I think the refs adjudicated it correctly.
That response earned her a technical. In a surprising twist, Aaliyah Boston, who had been attempting to calm things down, was also hit with a technical foul, leaving fans and players alike confused about what had just unfolded. On the court, it was chaos. But for those who followed the rivalry brewing between Clark and Reese since their college days, this felt inevitable. Caitlin later clarified that it was a take foul, not meant to be malicious. "That's not the type of player I am," she explained post-game, visibly composed.
I don't necessarily agree that everybody reacted the same and both sides had tension at that moment, because it didn't seem like Caitlin was bothered or really trying to fight or anything. She just walked away after the take foul.
But the optics told a different story, a heated confrontation between the two most followed rookies in women's basketball, surrounded by a frenzy of teammates, officials, and flashing cameras. This wasn't just physicality, it was personal history resurfacing.
In my opinion, I don't think it's necessarily people calling out the women for competing. They're calling them out for just blankly nasty foul.
I think it's because people project what they want on each of them, and those are subjective ideas that they're projecting.
And while the referees may have tried to restore order, the fire had already been lit. The whistle had barely stopped echoing through the arena when the media machine kicked into overdrive. Highlight reels of the incident began circulating within minutes, each slowed down replay more dramatic than the last.
But to me, again, this falls under the guise of competition, and y'all gotta let these women compete.
National Sports shows wasted no time dissecting every angle of the play. Analysts were split. Some argued that this was nothing more than an intense basketball moment blown out of proportion by the online frenzy.
Neither were in the wrong because this was a heat-of-the-moment situation.
Are you doing dirty moves, dirty plays on the court? I think that's what I've been seeing men call these women out on.
Which any player that gets hit like that, I used to do this all the time, but you have these heat-of-the-moment emotional reactions on both sides.
Others saw it as part of a larger narrative, one that had been quietly simmering since the NCAA championship showdown between LSU and Iowa. But regardless of where each personality stood, one thing was undeniable. The Clark-Reese rivalry had re-entered center stage. Monica McNutt and Chiny Ogwumike offered a balanced perspective on air, emphasizing that this level of intensity happens often in high-level basketball.
Are you competing or are you trying to hurt somebody?
I continue to say that this is competition. And obviously, if we were in this setting and I no buckets allowed foul somebody, it would be a problem because we are outside of the parameters of basketball.
They cited similar instances between stars in both the WNBA and NBA, brushing off the confrontation as competitive fire. Yet, even they couldn't ignore how quickly the situation escalated into something far larger than a foul. Aaliyah Boston, who had stepped in to de-escalate, had somehow ended up penalized, another symbol of how unpredictable the moment had become. From Stephen A. Smith to sideline reporters and podcast hosts, everyone had a take. And with every new opinion, the public reaction splintered further.
I'm pretty sure most of everybody who are real basketball fans and real fans of Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever will agree also that those things are unacceptable.
I think it was a basketball play. I don't think it's much ado about anything. I think both of you are 100% correct in terms of not only attributing it to competition, but loving the fact that they're being allowed to compete. We should not judge women competing against one another differently than we would judge the men.
This wasn't just a basketball incident. It became a symbol, a narrative, a storyline picked apart not just by journalists, but by fans, influencers, and cultural commentators across platforms. While some praised the fire both women brought to the court, others latched onto the moment as proof of favoritism, double standards, or deeper cultural biases. The game had ended, but the real battle, one for public perception, was just getting started.
Is this trending news because it's women being physical?
No, it's because of them.
Let me just call it what it is, a black and a white player.
All the fan bases unite like Captain Planet, coming at one fan base.
As the fallout from the Clark-Reese clash deepened, the conversation took a turn that was both unavoidable and deeply uncomfortable. Beneath the surface-level discussion of fouls and flagrant calls, race re-emerged as a defining undercurrent. For many viewers, this wasn't just about two elite athletes competing. It was about a white superstar and a black superstar, and how their actions were perceived through completely different lenses.
But there are white folks in America that had a problem with Angel Reese coming at the chosen one, Caitlin Clark, that way.
And it's crazy because I can find so much evidence on the internet showing that people are disrespecting and saying crazy things to Caitlin Clark as well.
While some tried to sidestep this reality, others confronted it directly. On First Take, Stephen A. Smith drew a line back to the 2023 NCAA championship game, where Angel Reese's now iconic taunt toward Clark was met with outrage from certain media outlets and fan bases. That backlash, according to Smith, revealed more about the viewers than the players. Reese's gesture, a mirror image of Clark's own taunting style, wasn't received as competitive bravado. It was labeled classless and unsportsmanlike.
But if we're keeping it about the player and the game, why couldn't both of them just get credit on their game?
Smith argued that the Clark-Reese rivalry had become a Rorschach test for America's cultural and racial biases. He made it clear, if roles were reversed, the narrative would likely follow different contours.
If it was the other way around, oh Lord, you can only imagine how the conversation would have gone.
This isn't to say Clark welcomed the imbalance. She's consistently deflected praise toward her opponents and spoken respectfully about the competition. But the disparity in how the public and press have responded to each woman's most heated moments is stark. And this latest altercation only magnified the divide.
When Caitlin Clark was getting knocked all over the place, how was her reaction? Did she get up and try to fight? Did she get up and try to get in somebody's face afterwards? A lot of those times, it was just her maybe laying down, or she got up and walked away, got up, went to the bench.
Analysts like Chiny and Monica pushed back, urging fans to focus on the competition, not color. But even their measured responses couldn't prevent the public from interpreting the moment through their own lived experiences. For some, the altercation reaffirmed beliefs about media bias and coded language. For others, it was simply a case of elite athletes losing their cool. But in a league that is over 80% black, yet finds its newest marketing face in a white rookie phenom, the questions aren't going away. They're multiplying, and fast. If the Clark-Reese rivalry was the spark, then social media poured gasoline on the fire. Within hours of the foul, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram were flooded with clips, hot takes, and fan-made edits dissecting the moment frame by frame. Online, battle lines were drawn almost instantly. One side defended Clark, insisting she'd simply made a smart defensive play that had been unfairly punished. The other side rallied around Reese, accusing both the officials and the media of treating her with disproportionate scrutiny. But the discussion didn't stop there. It devolved into something more tribal, more divisive. What had started as a basketball play was now being spun into a cultural war over race, gender, and even class. The most vocal supporters of each player began pushing extreme narratives. Clark was framed by some as the league's golden child, protected, praised, and allowed to play with an edge that would earn others a technique. Reese, meanwhile, was depicted as a victim of systemic bias, punished not for her actions, but for who she was and how she presented herself. Lost in all of it was the basketball itself. Clips of the game were edited to manipulate the narrative. 1-second outbursts were looped endlessly, stripped of context, turned into viral content that was no longer about the play, but about politics. This isn't new. Social media has long been a catalyst for turning sporting moments into cultural flashpoints. But what makes this different is the speed and volume of engagement. Millions of views, thousands of comments, and hundreds of micronarratives emerged from one play, and all of it impacted how fans viewed the players involved. Clark and Reese didn't just have a scuffle. They became avatars for deeply rooted tensions in sports fandom. And while the WNBA saw a surge in visibility, the tone of the discourse raised serious concerns about what kind of spotlight the league had stepped into. As tensions boiled over online and media narratives took on a life of their own, the WNBA was thrust into a situation it could no longer ignore. Less than 24 hours after the incident, the league released an official statement condemning racism, hate, and discrimination in all forms, making it clear that such conduct had no place in the sport or in society. The timing was telling. This wasn't just a response to a hard foul. It was damage control in the face of a viral moment that had spiraled far beyond the basketball court. The statement was firm, but also hinted at something deep. The league was aware of growing unrest among its fan base, and more importantly, the emotional toll being placed on its players. The backdrop to the WNBA statement wasn't just the foul. It was the barrage of hate some players, including Angel Reese, had reportedly received from fans both in the arena and online. Reports emerged of racially charged comments and targeted vitriol during the game, prompting not only internal investigations but renewed scrutiny on arena security and league policies around fan conduct. This wasn't the first time players raised concerns about personal safety or mental health. In fact, similar issues had surfaced in previous seasons, but this incident, with two of the league's most visible stars, brought those concerns into mainstream awareness. The league's attempt to publicly align with its athletes was both necessary and strategic. In a time where player empowerment and mental well-being have become front and center issues across all professional sports, the WNBA couldn't afford silence. By stepping up with a formal statement, the organization sought to affirm its values and shield its athletes from further harm. But whether the move was enough or merely a PR gesture remained a matter of debate among fans and commentators. What was clear, however, was that the league was no longer just refereeing games. It was now mediating cultural tension, fan behavior, and player safety all in real time. As speculation swirled, attention turned toward the players themselves. Beyond the fouls, beyond the fan wars, the question loomed large. Do Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese actually like each other? On paper, the answer seemed simple. Both had exchanged public gestures of mutual respect during interviews, and their interactions at past events, like the WNBA All-Star Game, suggested at least a professional rapport. But when pressed for clarity during a televised panel, even seasoned analysts struggled to deliver a definitive answer. Repeatedly, phrases like "they respect each other" surfaced, a diplomatic phrase often used in sports when deeper tension exists behind the scenes. The truth is likely more complicated than a binary like or dislike. Clark and Reese are two competitors with vastly different styles, backgrounds, and public perceptions. Clark, with her stoic demeanor and deep shooting range, is often compared to Steph Curry and marketed as a next-gen icon. Reese, fiery and physical, has earned the nickname Bayou Barbie and is embraced by fans who see her as unapologetically herself. Their contrast is magnetic, which makes it marketable but also contentious. When Stephen A. Smith tried to push analysts for a straight answer about their personal relationship, he was met with evasiveness, laughter, and carefully worded responses. It was a telling moment. If there were warmth behind the scenes, someone would have said so plainly. What exists between them isn't likely personal animosity, it's competitive friction. Both have carried the weight of their respective programs in college. Both are now tasked with being the faces of their WNBA franchises. And both are being asked to navigate a league unaccustomed to this level of attention. Under those pressures, liking one another may be beside the point. What matters more is that they push each other. They elevate the conversation. And even if they never exchange friendship bracelets, the impact of their rivalry is already reshaping the future of women's basketball. What happened between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese wasn't just a flash-in-the-pan moment. It marked a pivot point for the WNBA. With a single hard foul and even harder reaction, two of the league's youngest stars set off a chain reaction that reshaped how women's basketball is perceived, marketed, and debated. But with that moment came an equally heavy burden, the weight of unrelenting attention. Both Clark and Reese now operate under a magnifying glass. Every movement is analyzed, every quote dissected, every glance, foul, or reaction is transformed into a national talking point. That kind of scrutiny is rare in the WNBA, but for these two, it's becoming the norm. The long-term impact of that spotlight can't be underestimated. For the league, the benefits are clear. Record ratings, viral clips, and mainstream media coverage that women's sports have historically struggled to attain. But for the players, particularly Clark and Reese, the price is emotional and psychological. They are no longer just athletes, they're avatars for larger societal narratives. And while both have shown remarkable poise, the expectations placed on them at such a young stage in their careers are nearly unprecedented. There is no blueprint for navigating fame, racial dynamics, and competitive rivalries all at once, especially in a league that is still building its cultural foundation. The path forward hinges on one thing: how the league, its fans, and its stars choose to respond. If handled with nuance and care, this rivalry could become the defining story that propels the WNBA into its most successful era yet. But if exploited carelessly, it risks overshadowing the very game it was meant to elevate. What Clark and Reese have sparked is bigger than either of them individually. They've drawn millions to the sport not just with their talent, but with their fire. The challenge now is to protect that fire from burning out. Because if the WNBA can harness this energy while preserving the humanity of its stars, it won't just ride a wave of popularity, it will build an empire from it.